So hi everyone, I am Mary Grace Daba and our topic is moral decision in terms of planning and execution.
So what is moral decision making? So ang moral decision making is ang pagbuhat og desisyon sa usa ka tawo nga naa sa saktong pamaagi. Kay in decision making man gyud na naman dira ang paghunahuna sa usa ka tawo kung sakto ba or mali ang ilaang nahuna-hunaan nga kuan desisyon or options nga ilang nahuna-hunaan to execute sa ilang desisyon. So sa atong paghunahuna ma-identify naman nato kung unsa ang mali ug sakto nga dapat buhaton ato. Sa nature of decision making. So, ang nature sa decision making is ang pagbuhat og desisyon nga effective, which is imong mga options nga nabuhat, imo tong i-test, i-identify nimo kung effective ba na kung imo na siyang buhaton. Dayon, second is kanang pag-recognize sa mga butang kung sakto ba ni or dili. If ever nga magbuhat ta og desisyon, mo man jud natong buhaton ang pag-identify o ang pag-ila kung effective ba ang atong mga options, kung na-recognize ba natong tarong ang atong ipangbuhat nga desisyon, sakto ba ni or dili. There are components of ethical behavior and decision making and action. Una is moral sensitivity, ikaduha moral judgment, ikatulo moral motivation, and ikaapat moral character. Moral sensitivity is the recognition that an ethical problem exists. So, ang moral sensitivity kay based sa unsa ang ato ang kuan feelings, atong emotions, which is magbuhat og decisions base sa atong kakabati o sa atong konsensya. Just like for example, natin makita nga kanang pulubi sa dalan, ang atong magamitan na sa atong moral sensitivity, which is mutabang ta sila kay luoy sila. So, moral judgment is all about what is right or wrong. Usually, ang moral judgment ginagamit nato to evaluate a person's attitude, actions, and behavior. Just like for example, natin makita nga babae nga gwapa, puti, makaingon din tag buutan. Pero pag naputi makita nga tao nga pangit, makaingon din tag basig masamang tao. Usually, ga-base ta og unsa ilang appearance pa atong gina-identify ang ilaang personality, ang ilaang pagkatao base sa ilang appearance. So next is moral character. So moral character is kung unsa ang batasan sa tao, kung unsa siya as a person. Just like for example, kung honest ba siya, kung unsa siya molihok in ethical manner.
In moral decision, in terms of planning and execution, there is a decision-making format. Decision-making format which can help us to make a better moral choices. Usa kini sa pagpatinaw sa paghimo og usa ka desisyon. The decision-making format has a 3 stages. First is the Ketter's ethical checkpoints, second the moral compass, and the third is the 5I for innovate at generating values of the solution. So, in innovating the solution, dili ta makadali-dali og decide because the decision maker needs og sakto na solution nga based siya sa set sa usa ka criteria nga applicable siya sa problem ug sa context, and it is how it can help reach to identify the goals and objectives as efficient and effective as soon as possible. The moral compass is a set of values and objectives nga mao'y magbiya sa usa ka tawo sa saktong pamatasan. Our moral compass can define a set of personal values that guide our decision making, and it is a reside in our hearts and have been formed over our lifetime. Like for example is our personal responsibility, our integrity, and our kindness. Identify the problem. In identifying the problem, it is determining the moral question or ethical dilemma of the situation, which is we need to set the goals and objectives because the decision maker needs to understand why the problem needs to be solved and what are the consequences if it remains unsolved. Investigate the problem. In investigating the problem, it is important to identify conflicts in duties and values because the decision maker needs to identify theories that are applicable or relevant to the situation or the specific context of the problem. Next is isolate the solution. In isolating the solution, we need to examine the pros and cons of alternative solutions, taking into consideration the context of the problem.
Moral decision making is having the ability to decide which is the right course of action once we have spotted the ethical issue. Sometimes this can be very difficult, as multiple options may seem morally defensible, or perhaps no options seem morally acceptable. Sometimes people face difficult ethical choices, and it is hard to fault them too much for making a good faith choice that they think is right, but turns out to be wrong. However, most white-collar crimes, overbilling, insider trading, paying bribes, fudging earnings numbers, hiding income from the IRS, and most other activities that lead people to end up doing the perp walk on the front page of the business section, do not present intractable ethical conundrums. They are obviously wrong. The problem is not that we haven't read enough Kant or John Stuart Mill. More commonly, the problem is that we are unaware of psychological, organizational, and social influences that can cause us to make less than optimal ethical choices. Our ethical decision-making is often automatic and instinctive. It involves emotions, not reasoning. When we think that we are reasoning to an ethical conclusion, the evidence shows that we typically are simply rationalizing a decision already made by the emotional parts of our brain.
That one.
Our brain's intuitive system often gets it right, but not universally. So we should never ignore our gut feelings when they tell us that we're about to do something wrong. But our intuition does not always choose the ethical path. An important reason that the intuitive emotional part of our brain errs is the self-serving bias, which often leads us to unconsciously make choices that seem unjustifiable to objective third-party observers. As a simple example, a U.S. News and World Report survey asked some people, if someone sues you and you win the case, should they pay your legal expenses? 85% of the respondents thought this would be fair. The magazine asked others, if you sue someone and lose the case, should you pay their costs? No! Now, only 44% of respondents agreed, illustrating how our sense of fairness is easily influenced by self-interest.
So what can you see in the video? There are 5 scenarios. First scenario is multiple options and facing difficult choices. Second scenario is t-shirt symbolize overbilling, insider trading, failing bribes, numbers, errors, and etc. Then third scenario is less optimal choices, and fourth scenario is about server bias, and the last day is 5 scenarios is about self-interest. So my moral lessons is dapat when we're going to make our decisions, dapat itong i-assure atong huna-hunaon kung unsay epekto, unsay outcome sa ato ang decision. Dapat magkwanta natay kanang time management to analyze and to assure our decisions, like magbasa tag mga research na dapat ito siyang i-review with collaboration or magkwanta sa need na itong mga idea from the others. Okay? Kung decision na to kung mag-decide sa to ang gikan sa itong kagalingon without helping from others. Dili ta sure kung sakto ba na ay dapat yun na ay need na to advisory gikan sa upang tao para ato ang ma-compare o ma-correct kung say angay na po buhaton. So dapat as a students, making decisions is not easy. Kay kuan need gid siya kuan sa uban. Need gid na to help para ma-improve na to itong pag-decision.